Well, there's a major turn of events. Something is happening. As Astrid already told you in the broadcast, it was urgent. Things are happening in the Middle East, in Saudi Arabia right now. There's a blockade, there's jamming. So what does this mean? Well, it means there's not a good signal. So if someone wanted to launch attacks toward Iran, it would be very complicated. Is someone sending out a jamming signal in different parts of the Gulf? That technology hadn't been seen before. Does this mean they've been building up their forces? An urgent meeting in Washington with Donald Trump pointing toward what's happening. Possibly the beginning of the conflict in the next few minutes, in the next few hours. Iran. Right now, there's a line of planes heading toward Iran. They're flying in the same area where Israel usually flies when it's going to attack Iran. It's not known if they're Israeli planes or US planes, but they're probably from one or both of those two countries. Exactly the same route they usually take over Iraq. About the planes, those jet planes haven't been specified any further than that. They're just military planes, jet planes. We might find out in a few more moments. But remember that over there, it's already nighttime. So visibility isn't good. Witnesses say they only hear the jet planes once they're already in Iraq. This moment then would already be a prelude to a conflict. The Iranians are on high alert. Washington is on alert. Donald Trump himself is in an urgent meeting. So decisions are being made there. We've been telling you about this for days now. The ceasefire made no sense. It was a ceasefire that wasn't going to last. Today, Marco Rubio gave a bit of hope, saying, well, there are some advances, but honestly, none could be seen. Especially since details of the alleged 9-point agreement were leaked now. In that agreement, the nuclear issue is not included, nor is the issue of reducing the number of missiles. Let's say everything is very favorable. But for Iran, obviously, that agreement would be difficult to accept. Now, if this is happening the way it seems to be happening, because we have to remember, this is a war. And in wars, information can suddenly be confusing. But we are basically repeating the same pattern that happened in June of last year, and then on February 28th, when the conflict started. One at night, same time for us. Also here in Mexico, it's always like the same pattern, right? And on the weekend, have you noticed that? Weekend and the attacks start. So it seems like this is going to be a complicated weekend. A weekend, well, maybe, as they say, a lot of work for us to keep you informed in detail, but obviously with a lot of information that will be above all thinking about if the attack enters this new phase. Iran's warning is that it won't stay in the Middle East, meaning the war will spread. They don't say where, because we have to remember that they don't have broad military capabilities to go beyond their comfort zone, so to speak, within Iran. So does it really seem that complicated? Where will they take it? More than them thinking about operate clandestinely, sabotage. Today, I gave you a report on how cyber warfare has escalated. A cyber warfare that, according to reports, it comes specifically from the Iranians. In fact, they found groups on the dark web and on these sites that are, let's say, known to be on the Iranian side. They have been recruiting hackers for operations against institutions of all kinds. So it seems that the hybrid war had already, let's say, escalated. That's what people are pointing out now. And it was logical, because that's what had been foreseen. It had been, let's say, predicted. Let's say a surge in cyber attacks had been predicted before the World Cup and was expected from the beginning. Well, we've seen it at the Olympics in Italy. We've seen it in previous World Cups. So let's say geopolitics affects international events. And not only that, but the fact that just a few moments ago, the resignation of Tulsi Gabbard was confirmed. We'll discuss that in more detail tonight. Tulsi Gabbard, Director of National Intelligence, has resigned and her resignation was accepted. Supposedly, she resigns, she steps down because her husband has bone cancer. Look, honestly, at those levels, if the partner is sick, they don't stop, they don't pause. Not for anything, absolutely for nothing. And look, Donald Trump's chief of staff right now has cancer and is working as if nothing's wrong. She has cancer. Her husband has bone cancer, according to reports, and that's why they decided to make this move. Look, the couple, I mean, Tulsi Gabbard and her husband have gotten to a lot. I mean, a lot. At other times, just like it happened with others, with many of Trump's people, they're always getting into drama and controversy. It doesn't mean they were wrong, but it stands out to me that she's leaving a position like intelligence. This shows Donald Trump wanted her out since then. One of his best friends of Donald Trump, and the one who pushes him to pursue a political career, Roger, what's this man's name? I forgot the name. There's a documentary about him, about how he produces, or let's say, pushes Donald Trump to get into politics. He was the one who saw that in the 80s. Imagine a communicator, an analyst, mainly a communicator, but also an analyst, who basically dedicates himself to funding, and supporting Republican political campaigns. He was the one who foresaw that he had the potential to be president because of the way he communicates, because what this man Roger defends. Let's see if someone can help me with the name. The documentary Him. I've recommended it a bunch of times there on Netflix to understand how politics works in the United States now and how it works in other parts of the world. He bases his power and how to reach those levels on his fame. Notice, not so much on your merits or your politics or anything like that. He bases it on fame, and he's a character who claims that you practically have to be generating controversy all the time. If you're a politician, and it's basic, Trump follows the exact pattern of this character. Well, he came out to defend Tulsi Gabbard at the time and told him, don't fire her, because if you do, you look very weak. Intelligence won't be on your side, and so on, and so on. Well, Tulsi Gabbard is already out. As they say, whatever the reason, she's out, and now that's all that's left. Basically, Pam Bondi is already out. We've seen not only the prosecutor fall, but also key figures from Donald Trump's cabinet have fallen. There are just a few left. The Treasury Secretary, and in any case, Pete Hess himself, the Secretary of War, and the head of the FBI are still there too. Well, now he's about to be out. Sooner or later, that man is going to be out. Doesn't it strike you that in the middle of a conflict, the head of intelligence is being pushed out? We have to remember that she had several disagreements, because she's the one who revealed that the Iranian regime was indeed a bit more weakened. But she said it's still intact, as she stated in a hearing in Congress. They were asking her if the regime was destroyed, if Khamenei was done for, and similar questions. And she said, look, honestly, it's weakened, she said, but the regime is still intact. And this really bothered Trump, because in the end, it was the acknowledgement that, well, you left it with scrapes, with wounds, with losses, but the structure of the regime remained the same. And I think that from there, that's when it started, the split, so to speak, of Donald Trump. And Tulsi Gabbard, well, with her controversies and all, had done some interesting work, because unlike Pete Hegseth, unlike other politicians, when she felt that, well, even if she went against Trump, she would tell the truth. She would say, well, this is happening to me, this, and that's it. She contradicted him several times, just giving the facts, right? And that bothered Trump. Prosecutor Pam Bondi, or even Pete Hegseth. Well, Trump didn't want that. They always say yes to him and never contradict him. And that's a dangerous thing, because in the end, you have to contradict him. That's what they're there for. So that if you make a mistake, the cabinet members will tell you, no, look, it's this way, it's that way. And they have to tell you the truth. Basically, she also acknowledges this as intelligence director along with her team. They admit that they hadn't seen anything since June, when the attack on the nuclear facilities happened. She says, you know what? There is no proof, there is no evidence that the nuclear facilities were destroyed. They were covered up, they're underground. There is no proof that they were destroyed. I mean, no one has been able to go in and verify that. And no, the structure doesn't appear collapsed. You can only see where the entrances are destroyed. But other than that, I don't know. Nobody knows. And she admits it before Congress, and that was already back in June last year. That had already caused some trouble. Then intelligence says again this time, look, 75% of the missile launchers are still operational. At first, they weren't working, but they repair them quickly and get them back. They say 70% of drones and missiles remain operational. Today, intelligence as well. I think that was the last straw, because we also reported that today, where United States intelligence says, hey, on top of everything I just mentioned, it's already been proven. There is already evidence that Iran is manufacturing drones and missiles. I mean, they are once again capable of manufacturing, he says. They are, as they said, reactivating faster than expected. And that, well, I imagine that was the last straw. Trump probably didn't like that, because in the end, it's a regime that's angry with you and that you couldn't destroy. And on top of that, now it's getting stronger. Well, obviously, clearly with an intention to respond. So how is it going to respond? It's not going to respond by attacking directly. Instead, it's going to respond by attacking the Gulf countries, the oil, the Strait, by controlling the Strait of Hormuz, etc. So there's no intention to free the Strait of Hormuz, right? So in light of that, well, the only solution I imagine they've calculated is this. And on this topic, this time, unlike February 28th, unlike the June attack this time it seems, and we'll have to wait a bit longer to see. But it seems that the movement wasn't started by Israel and wasn't started by Iran. Sorry, it wasn't started by the United States and it wasn't started by Israel. This time it seems, and I insist, we still don't have all the details, but it seems that Iran started it. The movement, not the attack, but they did get into attack position when they started with the jamming and all that. So right now, we're analyzing all the information and we'll talk about it tonight. But things are really, I mean, it's not going to be a normal weekend. Clearly, it's going to be a weekend where things are going to happen. Actually, they're already happening, right? All of this that I just mentioned on a Friday, May 22nd, is pretty intense. I mean, the market's close. I told you guys, hey, things are calm. I mean, oil is even going down to around $104. And I told you when there were 20 minutes left before the market closed, I said, hey, it's almost 4 in the afternoon in New York. The markets are about to close. I always told you before the markets close. Is Iran going to try to do something to scare the markets and make prices collapse or make prices go up in the case of oil? But nothing had happened. Nothing good had happened. But when the market closes, if there is going to be any movement from Israel or from the United States, it's usually a response. So that makes me think the opposite of what I just said. It makes me think that maybe what the Iranians saw was movement from Israel or the United States or both. And they said, get ready for war immediately because they started the jamming. And with the jamming, well, they're trying to stop possible attacks from Iran, from Israel or the United States. So what I'm getting at is that if the operation started after the market closing, it's from the United States or Israel. And if it started before, it's from Iran. Because, well, they want to hit the markets and it's in the United States' interest for oil prices to go down in any case. Well, the point is that the markets are closed right now. If they were open, we would probably be seeing oil prices shoot up again to 116, 120 or even higher. But luckily they're closed. So we'll have to wait until Sunday afternoon when the Asian markets open to see how things start over there. But regardless of that, we'll be paying attention and giving detailed updates on how the conflict is going. Right? How far will this situation escalate? I'll quickly check the comments. We're heading to the studio now to have a conversation. The middle stretch is going to have a bit of traffic from what I'm seeing. It's that time, right? It's obviously rush hour and all that. Hello. How have you been? Greetings. Let's see who's there. Marcela. How have you been? Marcela. Greetings. Hello, Marvin. Greetings. How have you been? And let's see, Iran managed to do it. They hit a lot of weapons and waited. In their waiting, they used up the American ammunition to take them out. Today, possibly, Carlos, we have to remember that they used up too much ammunition, and very expensive ones too. So it had already been warned that future wars would be fought with swarms of drones, with very cheap weapons, but deployed on a massive scale. So, did it work in Ukraine? Or is it working in Ukraine right now? And in that war that has been adapting, while Russia has also had to join the game. With drones, there was no other choice. That's how wars are now. And the Iranians themselves are participating in the war directly, not indirectly, directly with weapons. And it's known that there are Iranians operating inside Crimea. But from the very beginning, I mean, that's the thing, right? It's not that they have troops, but they have advisors. They have military personnel operating the drones and learning from them, right? So those famous Shahed drones that have caused a lot of problems, and the Ukrainians know how to stop them, right? So that's also something that the Gulf countries and even the United States are going to take advantage of, I imagine. Even Israel has already held negotiations with Ukraine. So is the next phase one that's adapted to drone warfare? And supposedly, according to the Iranians, it's a war that's going to spread to other regions. Where the question is Europe, the United States, hybrid war, global sabotage. I don't know. We think about too many things. Also, be careful. By the way, the soccer team from the Democratic Republic of the Congo is going to the World Cup. And later we'll check on how that's going to work. But apparently they're being told that they have to go into a 21-day quarantine, which isn't 40. In this case, it's 21 days because the World Cup starts in 20 days. So basically they have to be in quarantine starting today, right? Starting now so they can go to the World Cup, so they can enter the United States. To begin with, it's going to be very interesting to see how they handle that situation. Because obviously it's not just the national team, but the entire technical staff coming from the Democratic Republic of the Congo. What a strange World Cup. So geopolitical and full of things. How strange. Interesting, right? That's the situation. I'm still reading comments. How have you been? Panterita, thanks for the like. Shout out to Francisco Arce. Francisco, how have you been? Leonardo and PP live. What countries do to control the market and keep oil prices from rising has an expiration date. Because sooner or later, the markets will start to anticipate that move. Totally agree. And look, speculation works in the markets for a short period, right? But in day-to-day reality, the real sale and purchase of the product, whether it's gold, oil, whatever, will always happen. So if suddenly there aren't as many purchases, let's say, right? And you know what? Look, I'm already buying from Venezuela, from Mexico, from whoever you want, from England, from whoever sells oil, right? I'm already buying. I have my supply. I don't need to buy at the prices that are out there. In fact, I don't even need to. I already have my reserves. And that's where the price is going to drop. Or the opposite, right? That suddenly, because they've already released 3 or 4 times, I don't even remember how many, they've released a lot of reserves worldwide, right? These reserves are going to run out, right? Oh, and besides, I didn't know this, but supposedly in June, July, I mean, all those months, a lot of fuel is used because of vacations. People go out. So during those outings, apparently a lot of fuel is consumed. I'm going to double check that some news websites I've been looking at make that calculation. So I'll see how true it really is. Honestly, I thought it would be more like the consumption is higher during work periods than during vacations. But anyway, the point is that they estimate the supply can't last for more months. England is on alert. That's why they're telling people to take it easy with fuel. Just imagine England, which is an oil producer. I mean, no, this isn't trivial. It is strange, isn't it? Honestly, he says, how have you been? Hello, Carlos A. Well, to the whole community that's joining, thank you very much, Leonardo Panteri Panderillo. We'll see you all in a little while. We'll continue with the information about what's happening in the world. We're having quite a nice day. I'll show you the sky here so you can see the place. Look, it's just super beautiful. We're at 33 degrees. The sun is almost completely hidden now. And we're already in the classic golden hour, right? The sky is clear. We've had rainy days.
All the little trees are very green, right? Okay. So, well, it's ideal. I'll keep sharing with you all what happens later on. Thank you very much for sharing, for liking. Hey, see you in a little while in the live stream tonight. See you later.